Hi student, after looking through the work, okay, it seems like a lot of you still are not too sure or not able to handle real life application of quadratic function or quadratic equations. So let me demonstrate again on how do we apply whatever we have learned in this chapter on quadratic function on a real world context question. Do take note, these are the few things that we learn in this chapter. So let me list it down first, so that later it's easier for you to so-called refer. So let's start. So in this chapter we learn a few things. One is complete the square. So do make sure that you know how to complete the square in order to attempt such question. Then second thing, after complete the square, we learn how to sketch the quadratic curve. And inside this sketching of quadratic curve, we find a few things. Turning point, either using the complete the square method or factorization method. Then B, the x and y intercept, which is where the curve cut the x-axis and the y-axis. Why these few skills is important? Because we need to visualize or unpack what the question wants us to find, because whatever the question wants us to find is all relevant to these two skills. And the last skill is we need to understand one thing, which is introduced at the very early of the chapter, is this. Okay, we mentioned that, okay, for example, function f containing x, okay, is equals to maybe 2x squared plus 7x plus 8. For example, this function, which means that if I randomly just anyhow sketch this curve, okay, y-intercept is 8, because when x equals 0, here is 8, so maybe the curve look like this. So to understand that from this curve, if you want to find the fx value, okay, this is also the y value. It's the other way of presenting the y value. So if you want to find any y value or fx value with any x value given, for example, if this one is 10, for example, we can find this value for fx by substituting x equals to 10, which means that f bracket 10 equals to 2 bracket 10 square plus 7 bracket 10 plus 8. So this one can key in calculator. 2 times 100 is 200. 200 plus 70 is 270. This one is 278. So with these three scales, we will be able to handle a real context question. So let's take a look. Okay, we apply all these three things. So they say this question 1, a section of the cable is suspended between two towers, which is the P and the Q, stated in the question. Tower P, tower Q, which is this is the tower, tower P, tower Q. Okay, both towers of the same height. Then they say the height the height of the cable, which means that the cable, which is this portion, the cable is the cable height, which is height from where? Height from the origin O. Okay, which is, if you want to find all the respective height here, we have to sub in the respective x value, which is here. This is given by y equals to 1 over 1000 bracket x minus 300 close bracket square plus 10, where x is the horizontal distance from the tower P. Okay, tower P is here, this one. Okay, which is this distance, the x onwards. Okay, that's why it's represented here. Okay, let's take a look. Then from here, we are asked to find the height of each tower each tower, by the way, both tower P and Q, they are of the same height, because if they are of different height, then the cable will have issues. Because I mentioned before, or you have learned it in set 2, quadratic curve is symmetrical about the line of symmetry, so they are symmetrical. So both tower P and tower Q are the same. So with this, in short, we are asked to find the height of each tower, which we can just find this portion or this portion, but we won't be finding tower P lah. I mean, we won't be finding tower Q. We'll be finding tower P. Why? Because tower P is actually our y-axis. So this point where the cable starts to come down is actually the y-intercept, and from here this tally with our finding the x and y intercept. This is heavily used every time, so you can see how it's being connected. Then from here, okay, let's take a look. They say find the height of each tower above the roadway, so which means that our part 1 is actually finding y-intercept. So with this, okay, finding y-intercept, okay, I've went through this. How to find y-intercept is to sub x equals to 0. So we'll have when x equals to 0, comma, okay, it'll be y equals to 1 over 1000 bracket 0 minus 300 square plus 10. Please do not expand the bracket of this function. Okay, not say you cannot, but it's tedious. Do you want to expand, whereby this question at most is 1 mark to minimum 1 mark to maximum 2 marks? So with this, if we know that we are actually finding the y-intercept, which is we have to let x equals 0 to find y-intercept, it doesn't matter anymore, because it's easier to do in this manner. There's no need to expand the bracket, so we can just key in calculator and we get the value of the height of the tower to be 100 meter. It's a 1 mark question. Then part 2, they say find the distance between the two tower, which is actually here, the distance apart. Then students say, how to find? Then some students who are smart enough to see that, okay, this function, which is given in the question, y equals to 1 over 1000 x minus 300 square plus 10. This is actually the result of completing the square based on this bracket here. And we know that, okay, the turning point, okay, which is here, is actually 300 and the height here is 10. So because it's symmetrical about the turning point, student can straight away say it's 300 times 2. That's one way. Okay. The other way is that since we know that, okay, the height of each tower is 100, so we know this point is actually 100, and here also 100, because the tower is of the same height. So which means that if you are able, which means if we know the height is 100, okay, we want to know the distance apart between the two tower. Here y value is 100. So if you want to find the x value, we just need to let y be 100 and sub can find x. So from here, the other way, which is slightly longer, will be let the y be 100, because that's the height of the tower, or height of the tower, which is 100. So 100 equals to 1 over 1000 x minus 300 square plus 10. So here, please don't expand the bracket, because it's not required. If you expand, not say cannot, can, your work will be longer and you'll be very time consuming. Okay, do remember 1 mark we only can spend 1.5 minutes. So with this, okay, we cannot remove the 1 over 1000 yet, because we need to remove this 10 before we can remove the 1 over 1000. So we have to shift the 10 to the left side, or minus 10 on both sides. So we have a 90. Then now, Okay, we also don't expand the bracket. Why? Same thing. For easier sake, okay, we don't expand the bracket. Okay, this is very similar to your E-math solving by completing the square. We don't expand. Okay, but in this question we didn't limit the method, so we let student decide. But obviously we don't do a longer working lah. Then over here, I'll times 1000 to both sides, so I have 90,000 here. Then I have this. Then till this step, okay, we still don't expand. Why? Because if we expand, working very long. So instead, okay, I square root both sides. So if I square root both sides, okay, I'll have plus minus 300 equals to x minus 300. Then from here, I have x minus 300 equals to 300, or x minus 300 equals to negative 300. Then from here, I have x equals to 600, or x equals to 0. Then still say, huh? There are two values. Then how do you know which value is the answer? Then we go back to a question to make sense. Okay. The height of the tower can be 100 at 2 points. Here is 100 when x equals to 0. Here also 100 when x equals to 300. X equals 600. So since question wants us to find the distance between the two towers, so here the distance apart will be 600. Okay, 600. Got it? Okay. Can we proceed? So here part 3 is the one that is I would say a bit misleading. Why? Okay, let me zoom in. Let me erase some of the point. So here they say a car on the road is 20 meter underneath the cable, so 20 meter below the cable lah. Okay. Then they say that how far from tower P could the car be? Okay. So over here, there can be a few answers. Okay, let's take a look. Okay. So over here, part 3. So you can see here is 20 meter underneath the cable. So which means that over here 20 meter. So maybe here the car is here. Let me join the car. The car is here. It is 20 meter. I've mentioned to you in class, assuming that the car has negligible height. Okay. So here is 20 meter. So which means that over here, this value is 20. So our y value is 20. So that's how we link back to our concept of the function part. So must always link back. If you don't link back, we'll don't know how to start. So from here, I'll have 20 equals to 1 over 1000. Okay, times x minus 300 square plus 10. And from here, I remove the 10 first by minusing 10 on both sides. I have x minus 300. Solving is the same. So times 1000 to both sides. Then now same thing, I don't expand the bracket. I will square root both sides. So I have plus minus 100. So my x equals to 100 plus 300, or x equals to negative 100 plus 300. So I have two answers, x equals 400 or x equals to 200. Okay. So do take note. And how come there are two answers? And how come both answers are acceptable? Then this one I'll leave it to you all. You can take a look. So Okay, so this question is slightly easier because there's a diagram. What if there's no diagram? Look out for the next video and see how we try to solve without the diagram. Thank you.